Hi, guys. Today we're going to continue to talk about theme. You should have learned a little bit from the Nearpod slides that were before this, and we're going to continue talking about it with Phyllis's big test. First, we're going to start reading the last paragraph in page 64 just to catch our brains up because it's been so long since we read this. And then we're going to read pages 66 and 67. She was not content to recite her verse in drawing rooms or to read one of her poems from a newspaper. She wanted her own book because books would not last just a lifetime. They would be there for her children and her children's children. She hurried by the bookseller's shop that she visited weekly. Today, Phyllis did not have time to step inside and smell the leather bindings, but maybe soon she would make a visit and find her own name on a volume. But she must first pass this examination to make her dream come true. There would be only 12 gentlemen. She had often entertained as large a crowd in the Wheatley parlor. This group, though, would include the governor, the lieutenant governor, famous ministers, and published poets, all learned men. Many had studied across the river at Harvard and knew so much more than she did. Phyllis felt a chill as she approached the building. She shuddered and started to turn away, but then Susanna Wheatley's words echoed in her head. Your talent will speak for itself. Who knew her poems better than she did? She could not run away. Phyllis slowly mounted the steps. She would face her examiners, not just for herself or for the Wheatleys, but for her family back in Africa, and for her new brothers and sisters in America, who deserved their own poet. As she turned the handle on the large wooden door, the sunlight framed her entrance. She moved into the hall as all eyes turned toward her. Good day, gentlemen. I am the poet, Phyllis Wheatley. At this point, we're going to go back to earlier in the text. We're going to reread a little bit, and we're going to determine the theme of that section. So you're going to flip back to page 60. Which looks like this. We're going to look at paragraphs 9 and 10. Still, she had something to prove, not just because she was young, not just because she was female, but because she was a slave and came from Africa. She paused as a billowing sail moved into the harbor, caught her eye. Was this like the boat she had arrived on one day? In July, more than 11 years before, a slave ship full of human cargo? So the first question we should ask when we're figuring out theme is, what is this section mostly about? So I would say that because Phyllis talks about her experiences coming from Africa and that she was a slave, I would say that this part of the text really talks about how her past has affected her, how where she comes from and her experiences have affected her. So because Phyllis is a slave, we can really think about what things are important to her. So she feels like she has to prove how intelligent she is and how capable she is as a young woman. So think in your head, what is the theme? Remember, theme is the message or the moral that the author is starting to talk to us about right now. So looking at those two paragraphs, what's the moral or the message that the author's trying to give us? Now, remember with theme, there are many different options for a theme of a story, and you might have a different opinion than somebody else in our class. And that's okay. Theme is one of those things that as long as you can prove your point, as long as you can back it up with evidence and thinking, it's correct. So I would say for me, the theme of this story is really about proving yourself against the odds and fighting for what you believe in. Um, what I would like you to do is whatever you decide that you think the theme is or you want the theme to be, I want you to make a note of it here. So paragraph 9 and 10, somewhere take a note either in the margins. What is the theme right now? What do you believe it to be? Once you've done that, you can move on in the Nearpod.